Hello, my name is Matthew Gaddy. Thank you so much for attending this 3 months training. This is August, and this month's training will be high performance habits. So 6 habits you can develop for high performance. Now, the key to this, before we jump into this, is just to make sure that you all can know what you need to do each and every day to make high performance a habit. When you're feeling stuck at above average, when you feel like I'm able to see the glass ceiling, I understand I'm pressed up against the glass ceiling, but I don't know what to do to take to that next step. Figuring out what your high performance habits are going to be the key to help you to transcend into high performance and becoming a high performer. Now, the thing that you did to go from mediocre to above average are one thing. Those are great things for you to do. It's great that you've gotten to the above average point from mediocrity, or just basically an incompetence, meaning you're just not exposed to that type of information. But the things that you need to go from above average to high performance are different. And that's what we're going to be talking about: how to implement those habits, these 6 high performance habits, what they are, how to implement it in your life so that you can become a high performer. Now, one thing, just a couple of ground rules. If you guys have any other devices, any phones, other tabs open on your laptop or something, I would encourage you all to close them. One thing that will really help you as you become a high performer, one of the keys of high performance, is learning to focus at a deep level. That's been the key in developing flow within your life, which is a high performance state, and also helps you with information retention and also producing at your peak potential. So if you have any other devices, if you have your phone, make sure they're on silent or put away, whatever it may be. And then also, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm not sitting in a presentation where I'm going to say, hold all questions to the end. If you have any questions, feel free to utilize the chat and to ask your question then, so you won't forget them, because I have a habit of forgetting questions sometimes too when I have to hold them. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So just giving credit where credit is due, these 6 high performance habits were discovered initially by Brendon Burchard, I believe is how you say his last name, Burchard, in his book, High Performance Habits. Now, we're not going to be copying and pasting information from the book. There's a couple quotes and things, and some of the overall concepts are from the book, but what I want to do is present it to you in a different way. And also, this book is fairly thick. This is about a 360 some odd page book. And if you don't have time to do that, this is what these types of trainings are for, to distill that information down so you can get the highlights of it and also get more applicable actions on how you can inject these into your life. So if you have time, I would encourage you to read them. If you don't have time to read, I would say first, make time to read. And second, make sure that you go through this training and make sure you're taking notes and you're able to implement them and commit to implementing them into your daily life. So we're going to start with a quote. It says, "We do not act rightly because we have virtue or excellence, but rather we have those because we have acted rightly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." And this is really hitting home the concept of high performance habits. People who are high performers have habits that allow them to highly perform. The act of doing the thing makes you that particular thing. What does that mean? Another example would be: readers read, bikers bike, writers write, engineers engineer things. So you become the title, you embody the title, you become the thing you're aspiring to be by doing that particular activity. So people who are high performers have high perform. And the way that they do that is they make high performance a habit, and they utilize these 6 high performance habits in order to inject and instrumentally integrate high performance into their daily lives. So we're going to go into what these 6 high performance habits are. This is just the name of them. We have 1 is clarity, 2 is energy, 3 necessity, 4 productivity, 5 influence, and 6 courage. And we're going to be breaking each one of these down, thinking about what they are and also how you can implement them into your life. So the very first one is you want to seek clarity. Each one of these is going to have a verb attached to it, because we don't want to just, it's one of those things where you have something that can be implemented in your life, but until that verb is attached to it, if you're putting together your to-do list and your to-do list just says email on it, well, what does that mean? Do I need to go through my email? Do I need to delete emails? Do I need to put my emails in folders? You have to have a verb attached to that word in order to let you know what you're going to be doing. So in the same way, there's verbs attached to each one of the habits to let you know how you can implement them into your life. So the very first one is seek clarity. So seek clarity, really meaning focus on the future. Now, everything starts with clarity about where you want to go. So when we are starting on our high performance journey, you have a destination. You have to know that, hey, I want to become a high performer. Without understanding and knowing that you want to be a high performer, well, guess what? The chances that you become one drops drastically. So you want to make sure that you have a future mindset of where are we going? Where is this journey taking me? What is the goal I'm trying to reach? And this is where that seeking clarity comes in. So what you only want to worry about now is only worry about now to discover what your starting conditions are. A lot of times when I'm speaking with people and they're talking about high performance, they say, well, I can't be a high performer because I have this, or I can't be a high performer because I have this, or I have this, or this going on, or I only make this much amount of money, or I work in this particular industry. You don't need to worry about your starting conditions other than figure out what your starting conditions are. We don't look at the things around us right now in order to use those as limiters on what our potentials could be, but we do need to understand what we're dealing with right now. There is a great story in the Bible about this. Whether or not you're religious or not, it still applies. God's talking to Noah. He was a character in the Bible, and God wanted Noah to do something. And he asked Noah, what do you have in your hand? What do you currently have with you? What are you currently utilizing? Now we're going to utilize that thing that we have to help you to achieve this goal that I have set for you. In the same way, you want to look around your environment and figure out, what am I dealing with? What type of environment am I in right now? Am I a structural engineer? Am I a civil engineer? Am I an electrical engineer? What is the industry that I'm in right now? What are the projects I have right now? What are the certain traits that I have within myself right now? Do I want to be high performing in this specialized area? Do I want to be high performing in this specialized area? How can I look at what I'm dealing with right now in order to help me to achieve high performance in the future? And the way you're going to be doing that is by determining who you want to be. And you're going to go about designing your future for. Who you are right now pales in comparison to who you can become, because with time and effort, you can literally become whatever you want to be. That's the American dream, and it's definitely possible. You can look at your situation, you can look at your situation, and then begin to project forward into the future and design a lifestyle rather than living life by default, rather than just coasting through life. You can really live life intentionally and become who you want to be. And the way that Brendan shares how to do this inside of High Performance Habits is by selecting your future for. The future for talks about 4 different areas of your life and asks you a very specific question that gives you to ponder about who you want to be in these 4 areas. So the first one is self. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be a person who is respected in this particular industry? Do you want to be someone who goes and starts an engineering firm? Do you want to be someone who's known as a world-renowned subject matter expert? Do you just want to be in your current position, but continue to serve at a higher level? Who do you want to be? Now, the second one is social. How do you want to be remembered? So let's say we're fast forwarding into the future. You've passed away, sadly. Now, when people are talking about you, when people are thinking about you, what feelings, thoughts, and emotions are they going to feel when they remember, oh, I remember Matthew, he was XYZ. He was really XYZ. You want to think about those things, because the way you want to be remembered needs to help you structure your actions for today. If you want to remember it as someone who's generous, well, guess what? Today, you need to start giving. If you want to remember it as someone who was successful, then guess what? Today, you need to start plotting and taking the steps necessary for you to reach the success as you have it defined. Now, the third S is skills. What do I want to be great at? There is a quote that says, the man that tries to catch 2 rabbits, catches none. If you try to get great at everything all at one time, that is a fast path to mediocrity in everything you're involved in. So you want to figure out, what do I want to be great at? And then also, what do I want to be great at first? If there's a certain segment of your job where you're doing reports, or there's certain types of analysis that you're working on, you say, I want to be great at this. Well, guess what? Now you have a direction for your self-education plan, which we'll talk a little bit more. You know exactly what you want to be good at, and it helps you to look through all the information out there and quickly eliminate, this will help me to get better at this will not help you get better at this, and it helps you to avoid information overload. And then the very last S is, what difference do I want to make in the world at large? You really want to think beyond yourself. The reason you want to think beyond yourself is because we will typically do more things and do things better for people other than us than for ourselves. And we want to make sure we're leaving a positive impact on the world. Make sure that our contribution to the planet has been a net positive. We've been a giver and not a taker. The planet and the people that are on it are better for our existence rather than not better, worse off for our existence. So we really want to think about the types of questions, because if we don't ask those questions, we won't be intentional about it. If we do achieve any of these, it'll be by accident and not by design. And that's not what we're trying to achieve as a high performer. We want to seek clarity on each one of these. Next slide. So tactics to seek clarity. These are questions that you can ask that can help you to find your future force. So along with these questions, there's these sets of questions as well. The first one addresses the self. If you could describe your ideal self in the future, the person you're trying to become, how would you describe that self? You need to answer that question. You need to really ponder about it and write it down. The second question, how do I want those I love and serve to remember me? Like we talked about before, how you want to be remembered in the future, it helps you to instrumentally target what type of actions you want to take today. And number three, what 3 skills should I work on developing now so I'll be more successful next year? That allows you to tailor some of your self-education plan, the things that you're lurking about. It also helps you to quickly eliminate other things that aren't those 3 skills so that you won't experience that information overload. Number 4, what matters now and how can I deliver it in a way that exceeds expectation? Once again, if we want to make sure that we are leaving the planet better than we found it, making sure that our time on the planet was one where we interjected positivity and change for the right reasons rather than just being a drain on everyone around us. So these are some of the tactics that you can utilize, the questions that you can answer to help you to seek clarity. Now, the next one we're going to be talking about, the next of the high performance habits, is generate energy. Now, why is generating energy so important? It's because without energy, there literally is no performance. Think about it this way. If you literally have no energy, it doesn't matter how good your plan is. It doesn't matter how good your calendar is set up. It doesn't matter how productive you are. If you have no energy, you cannot do any of those things. This is really echoed by Brendan when he states, the more energy someone has, the more likely they are to be happy and climb to the top of their primary field of interest, simply because they have more energy than everyone else. If you can keep going when everyone else is stopping, well, guess what? Over time, that continues to build. You create that gap and allows you to get to the top even easier. And there's going to be 2 main ways that we can generate energy. One way is by creating mental triggers to refocus on the positives. This is more mental energy. And a great way to remember this is that when we are thinking about energy in a positive sense, if you have a positive mindset and a positive way of outlook of looking at things, it'll help you to experience more physical energy, even if you don't experience it all the way. If your body is, let me think about this. What's the best way I can think about it? If there is a sport you enjoy playing, and this sport you enjoy playing brings energy from a mental state because I enjoy playing this particular sport. At the end of that playing session, your body physically might be tired, but guess what? You still feel great because your mental energy is high, even though your physical energy is low. So the very first one, creating mental triggers to refocus on the positive, is about creating mental energy. Now, the second one is by optimizing your health. Now, this is more about your physical energy. So the energy that comes from your body. This is outside of the mental constraints. This is actually your physical, literal body. How can we optimize your health in order to generate more energy? And we'll talk about those. So they have the 2 categories that we have. There's mental triggers and then optimizing health. Now, the mental triggers, the best way to do this is to learn to utilize transitions in your day in order to refocus on positive things. So the very first one is transition refocus. So we have different roles that we fulfill in our lives every single day. Now, for me, I am a coach, I am a business owner, I am a dad, I am a husband, I'm a son, I am, a car driver, I drive my kids around, I'm all these different roles, all these different hats. Well, guess what? Each time I transition from one role to another, that's a signal for me to say, hey, let me really slow down, really think about what's going on. Let me release the things that were attached to my past transition and set my intention for this new transition I'm going into, this new period, and help me to refocus on what's going on. So if we are just an example, a way that you can learn to master your transitions. Let's say you're going from work and you're going home. And when you're at work, you are employee. When you're at home, you might be dad, you might be friend, you might be son, you might be whatever it might be. You might be wife, you might be daughter, whatever it might be. So the way you can master this transition is literally to take 2 to 3 minutes and do a quick meditation. It's nothing crazy, and you don't have to think about it as meditation. It's about refocusing. What you'll do is you'll close your eyes for a second. Please don't do this when you're driving, but close your eyes for a second. You'll take 3 or 4 deep breaths. And while you're taking those 3 or 4 deep breaths, you'll just mentally repeat, release, 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 release. And you'll do this until you feel the tension in your body begin to drop. Now, it doesn't have to all the way be gone, but you just want to feel a lull in the tension that's inside of your body. And this is releasing you from that past state that you were in before. Now, the next thing you want to do is set your intention for this new state you're going into. So we've gone through the release process, we repeated release, we felt the tension leave our bodies again. And if you're going from being an employee to being dad, in my case, my set intention might be, I want to be fully present for my kids. And we're just going to set that intention, and we're going to allow that intention to carry over into our next period of transition. And I know it sounds really simple. I know it sounds like it may not be something that works, but I guarantee you it does, because when you set your intention, it tells you where your energy should flow. All of my energy is not going to be still in my employee phase of my life. My energy is now going to be in my dad stage of my life because I set that intention initially. And the second way you can do this is just attaching normal events and having a high performing reaction for each one of those events. So something might be, so think of something that happens regularly throughout your day. It might be your phone, you get a text message on your phone. Well, guess what? If you regularly get text messages on your phone, you can allow that to just be that, or it can be a signal, a trigger for you to answer a question that can help you to generate more energy. So let's just say, what if instead of your phone going off, your phone buzzing, you got a text message, instead of it just being that thing, let's say for every time I get a text message and my phone alerts myself, I ask myself one of these 2 questions. What can I get excited about today? Excitement naturally brings more mental energy once again. Or who or what could cause me stress, and how would my high performing self handle it? You begin to think about things in advance. You plan to find out where are these pitfalls that I might face later on in my day, begin to solve them in advance so that when it comes up, you can say, I figured that out already. My highest performing self would not get upset at this person's answer. My high performing self would make sure that I plan this particular segment rather than just trying to wing it, whatever it may be. And so when you're able to do both of these, so you have your transition refocus. So we're going to take the time during our transition periods to release the old period of time and set our intention for the new period of time. And then also setting together mental triggers. So we're going to take a normal event, whether that's your phone ringing, whether that is you walking through a door, whether that is through it's the top of the hour, and asking yourself these questions that can help you to generate more energy, like what can I get excited about today? It allows your energy to stay at a peak state. Now, this is for the mental energy side. Now we're going to look at the physical energy side. And the number one thing in optimizing your health is just do the stuff you know to do already. The majority of us know exactly what we need to do to live a healthy lifestyle, an optimally healthy lifestyle. We just haven't built the discipline around executing them consistently. So just do more of what you already know to do. So could be things like getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, eating more green leafy foods, vegetables, eliminating processed foods, regular strenuous exercise, a daily stretching routine. Things that we already know we need to do. You can look up online just to figure out what should I do to live a more healthy lifestyle. The CDC has a lot of things. The Department of Health has a couple of things as well. These are real basic things, and just start with the basics. You don't really need to worry about, oh, I have to have my room at 68 degrees and I have to lay on my back at a 22-degree angle to get optimal types of sleep. Don't worry about those things until you get the basics down. Get your 7 to 9 hours of sleep first. Those are really easy to do. You don't need any extra equipment to do that other than maybe an alarm clock. Get those things down, and then you can worry about the further optimizations. It's a great way to save money if you do it that way too. Now, if you are going through all this and you still simply can't do it, there's other ways you can other support you can get help, get a physical trainer or a workout buddy if you're not going to the gym regularly. Just having that person there, having someone you've either paid to be there or someone else who's waiting for you to be there will help you to motivate yourself to get up and go do the activities that you need to do. Getting a nutritionist who will tell you exactly what you need to eat. If you're having issues figuring out, well, what's a healthy meal? We'll find someone who's trained in learning about what healthy meals are, hire them, and they can help you to create a diet, a plan that works specifically for you, that will help you to give you all the physical energy that you need. And then a health coach. And then also you can even, like we talked about in last month's training, utilizing a tracker. Put all these things down on a spreadsheet, and for each day, go through and say, did I get 7 to 9 hours of sleep? Yes or no? Did I eat more green leafy vegetables than I ate processed food? Yes or no? Did I do physical exercise today? Did I stretch today? Things along those lines, and just having that awareness will help you to improve those areas as well. So these are the 2 ways we can increase and generate more energy. We have our mental triggers and we have optimization of health. And it starts off with doing some of the things that you already know how to do. Now, the third of the high performance habits is around raising necessity. And why is this so important? It is because we are what we regularly do. And if high performance is not a must for you, well, guess what? High performance will not be a must for you, and you'll only occasionally high perform rather than consistently highly performing. So necessity is the emotional drive that makes that makes great performance a must instead of a preference. You cannot become extraordinary without a sense that it is absolutely necessary to excel. High performance has to be something that is your default. It has to become your habit. It has to become the thing that you strive to. And without that, like we talked about before, high performance is going to be hit and miss. And guess what? If hit and miss high performance is really above average performance, because sometimes you'll hyper perform, sometimes you won't. And if you don't know what certain triggers will lead you to high performance, you'll high perform on some things sometimes, and then other times you'll just be above average, and no one will ever really select you for anything, because I don't know if I can count on Matthew. Sometimes he does a great job. Sometimes he does an okay job. I can't count on him because I'm not consistent. And so when you raise your necessity, it allows you to be a consistent high performer. Now, there are 4 factors that contribute to necessity. Now, there are internal factors, which are intrinsic factors. They come from you and how you view yourself. And then there's external factors, people outside of you, things outside of you that can place pressure in a positive context on you. Pressure isn't always a negative thing. Sometimes pressure is a good thing. It depends on how we are framing it, how we're looking at it, and how we deal with it. So the internal factors of necessity are identity and obsession. We'll talk about those. And then the external factors are duty and urgency. And we'll talk about those as well. So the 4 factors of necessity, the very first one, the internal one, is identity. And the question that you have to answer is high performance integral to who you are? Really think about that. Do you identify yourself as a high performer? Do your actions, when you really take an objective look at yourself, would your actions say that you are on the path to high performance? Does it say that there's something you're concerned about? Is it something you're just interested in? Are you a dabbler? Are you really committed to this? Really begin to stop and take some introspection to figure out, hey, how do I want to be seen? And is high performance integral to who I am? So the ways you can do this is by setting higher standards for yourself. When you set higher standards for yourself and you say that I'm only going to tolerate this level of performance from me, well, guess what? You will begin to raise your level of performance because your standards are now higher. We don't live up to performance, we live down to our standards. So by moving your standards up, it encourages you to raise your level of performance in order to meet those new standards. Now, after you've done this, you also want to self-monitor your progress. The reason you do this is because it's great to have high standards, but if we're never looking to figure out where are we? Are we meeting the standard? Are we exceeding the standard? Are we not even trying? Then you lose the effect of setting the higher standards because you don't know where you actually stand. If you're consistently underneath it, you need to figure out, hey, what can I do to make up this gap? If you're consistently over it, you might say, hey, do I need to move my standards even higher because I can easily achieve the previous standards that I set? And the very last one is just be objective in your observation. We are us and you are you. And sometimes because we are us and you are you, we can look at things through the I'm going to be a little bit more gentle about myself because it is me and I don't want to hurt my own feelings and look at myself objectively. But when you're trying to achieve high performance, you need to be willing to take that uncomfortable look at yourself sometimes. Sometimes the best thing for you to do is to look yourself in the mirror and say, you're not doing a good job right now. And when you recognize that you're not doing a good job right now, that's been out there. And now you can take the steps that you need to take in order to raise your level of performance. Just remember that the payoff is worth the potential discomfort. The payoff will always be worth the potential discomfort when you are pursuing high performance. Now, the second internal factor is obsession. Do you care about mastering your craft? When you think about what you're working on, when you think about your job or the area of responsibility that you have, do you care about that? Do you care about getting good at it? Are you willing to be obsessed for this? So you want to build passion for your work, and that means to give yourself over to it. This doesn't mean to unhealthy levels, but it really does mean to really means very close to unhealthy levels. You want to make sure that whatever you're working on, that becomes the thing you're working on. Like high performance is something that I'm really passionate about. And just by reaching out and cooking some of the things, you can tell that. If I have a book on a 10X rule sitting right here. I have high performance habits sitting right here. I have Psycho-Cybernetics, another performance book right here. I have The Laws of Lifetime Growth right here. I have, this is just the cover, but the book's upstairs, so I'm reading it, The Art of the Impossible. And this is a peak performance primer right here. So you'll know that you're moving towards the time of obsession when other people are able to look at your environment, they're able to look at your level of dedication and say, this person really cares about what they're doing. And so we want to build that passion for our work because the things you're obsessed about, you really don't have to worry about spending enough time on them or not spending enough time on them. They become what you do and then become who you are, which goes back to our identity stage. And the quote that goes alongside this one is just people who become world-class at anything focus harder, longer and harder on the craft, which is easier to do when you are obsessed with getting better at it. Sometimes it doesn't even need to be obsessed with that actual topic, but you can become obsessed with getting better at that actual topic. I could not care about copywriting, which is just writing things in order to sell things, but I can be obsessed about getting better at copywriting. I get obsessed about improvement, and this is the area and the avenue I'm choosing to improve myself right now. So it doesn't always have to be the thing you're working on itself, but it can be being obsessed with getting better at the thing you're working on. Now, duty is the first of our external necessity factors. And you really want to think about that. Who is depending on you? Because we often will do things for other people that we won't do for ourselves. So we want to make our high performance bigger than us. When you high perform, who benefits from it? Does your team benefit from it? Does your company benefit from it? Does your spouse and your family benefit from it? Think about what positive change your high performance makes for those other people. And it might be even beneficial, and so I would encourage you all to do, would be to write down on a sheet of paper who benefits from my high performance at the very top of the page. And then on the left-hand side, just put down different categories of people, your friends, your family, your spouse, your company, your industry, and figure out different ways how they benefit from your high performance. Your family might benefit because, hey, I can take them on vacations more often because I was rewarded for performing at a higher level because I got a raise and a bonus and I got some grant because of something I was working on. My spouse will benefit because they recognize that, hey, I really care about this thing and I'm passionate about getting better at it. And they love seeing me do at my best when I'm at work. Your industry might do it because I'm able to move the industry forward and so forth and so on. So when you're working on things, especially during those times where you're working and you are obsessed with it, but you're running up against a challenge, really begin to remember and ask yourself, who needs me at my best right now? That is the best way for you to reframe what you're doing as for you and to doing it for someone else. Who needs me at my best right now? So my team need me at my best right now. It's the client need me at my best right now. And that helps you to really focus on who is depending on you rather than, oh, this is difficult, I don't want to do this, in the midst of you working on it. Now, the last necessity factor, is external factor, is urgency. And this is really answering the question, how does my high performance affect others again? And the reason that this is different from the duty is because your duty depends on how does this benefit this other person. Urgency depends on how soon can I get this benefit for this other person. There is a time aspect to it as well. And the way that you can do this is just by setting deadlines, set real hard deadlines and do your best to meet them. Now, are you going to be able to meet all of them every single time? You may not be, but just because you may not be able to reach all of them does not mean you shouldn't continue to push forward and try to accomplish as many of them on time as possible. And the quote from the book is just nothing motivates, nothing motivates, I should say, like a hard deadline. This goes in conjunction with Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law simply states that work expands to fill the time you get it for completion. So if you have a project and you give yourself 6 months to get that project done, that project will probably take about 6 months. That exact same project, you give yourself 2 weeks to get it done. You may not get it all done in 2 weeks, but guess what? You've gotten a whole lot more of it done in 2 weeks than you would have done if you had simply left it at 6 months. So you want to make sure that we're having tight, hard, real deadlines to motivate you because of the clock that is ticking. So these are the 4 factors of necessity. We have our internal, identity and obsession, and then our external, duty and urgency. So tactics to raise your necessity. These are the things that you can do. Number 1, raise your standards. Raise your standards in the quality of work that you accept from yourself. Raise your standards in the quality of life that you live. Raise your standards in the type of food that you're eating, whatever it may be, because it will carry into different areas of your life. High performers require more from themselves than others do, and determine where you're giving less than your best and strive to increase your performance. Number 2, get obsessed. So you want to find an area to high perform in, find an area for you to high perform in that you will allow yourself to be engrossed and allow yourself to be engrossed by it. So find an area you want to become a high performer in and allow yourself to be engrossed by it. Once again, it doesn't have to be the topic itself. It could be obsessing about getting better at that particular project. And if you don't like your job or craft, consistently ask yourself, what about this can I get excited about? When you're going through those things, you're like, I hate drafting reports. Well, guess what? What can I get excited about? I get excited about this because I can practice my writing skills while I'm doing it. So now it becomes about improving your writing skills rather than just writing the report. Helps you to refocus. 3, find someone who counts on you and just keep that person in mind. You can ask yourself, who needs me at my best, and do your work as if your performance will positively affect them, because it can. And then number 4, set deadlines for every task, for every project or task relating to your goal. Set a hard deadline and remember Parkinson's law. If you give yourself less time to do something, the chances and the probability that it takes less time skyrocket. Now we're going to be going to some of the other high performance habits. And the one we're talking about next is increase productivity. And this is about just doing the right things. So high performers note that increasing productivity does not mean doing more things. It means accomplishing their goals through PQO, which we'll talk about. It's called prolific quality output. And we have definitions for that on the next slide. And having a plan to reach it, which is our 5 steps framework. And just from another quote to remember, the fundamentals of becoming more productive are setting goals and maintaining energy and focus. That's one of the reasons why I encourage everyone to turn off their phones, close their other tabs, because this really is about making sure that this is the most productive time as you can. We want to make sure that you get the most out of this presentation and the most out of whatever you're working on and not have to revisit it as much all the time. And the best way you can do that, like we talked about, maintaining energy and focus and setting goals to make sure that you are doing the right thing each and every time. So we increase our productivity by taking breaks, finding your prolific quality output and creating more of it. And we'll talk about what that is, plotting your next 5 steps, and then finding and improving your key skills. So productivity is where I started in this space. So I won't dive too deep in this because I could talk about it all day, but we'll just kind of hit the high notes. So taking breaks. We often look at breaks as something that's negative. If I'm not working, I'm not being productive because I'm not producing. But working too hard and too long will kill your productivity because it begins to decline with your energy expenditure and your focus depletion. So breaks allow you to recover that focus, recover that energy, and also make sure that you're recalibrating your actions to your goals. How many times have you been working on something and in the middle of working on it, you were like, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. I'm doing it and I can do it well, but I don't know why I'm doing it. Well, guess what? When you're taking breaks, it allows you to have that space to step back, look at the problem instead of being in the problem, and determine, do I even really need to do this? Because sometimes we can get stuck inside of something and we've accomplished the piece that will allow us to achieve our goals, but that particular task itself might not be all the way complete, but the part that we needed to accomplish the larger task is done. And only by taking that step back and actually looking at what we're doing, we'll be able to determine that. So the practice for this is just take a quick 2 to 3 minute break for every 45 to 60 minutes of work. It'll help you keep energized, help you stay focused, and it'll help you to recalibrate your actions. And the next one is to find your PQO. This is really about producing more of the things that really matter. Really mattering, meaning that will help you to achieve the goals that you have for yourself. So you want to find your prolific quality output and spend as much time on it as possible and produce more of it. So your prolific quality output is something that you produce in your position that carries more weight than everything else. When I was working at a utility, I was working in the standards department. So guess what? My PQO was standards produced. Those are the measurement of how am I contributing to this position. If I'm coming up with standards, if I'm revising standards, if standards are coming out of my office, then guess what? I'm doing my PQO, the thing that I'm supposed to be doing in this position. So other examples of that might be reports. If you're in a research position, how many reports are you putting out? How many standards are you putting out? How many projects are you accomplishing? Those are your prolific quality outputs. And now you want to maximize how much time you're spending on them. And it also gives you an avenue to focus on and structure the rest of your week around. So ideally, you would like to spend around 60% of your week on them. If you can't do that initially, I encourage you just to spend as much time as you can on them initially, but over time, slowly, each and every week, each and every month, each and every year, spend the majority of your time around them, because these are the things that actually pushes the needle forward. No one is going to be controversial, I'm going to say it anyway. You won't get an award for being fastest email responder. You won't get an award for consistent email attendance. You won't get awards for that, but you will get an award for this person consistently completed 80%, 90%, 100% of the projects given to them at the beginning of the year. Those are the things that actually push the needle forward. We don't care if you responded to 100% of your emails or answered 100% of your phone calls or answered or at 100% of the meetings you're invited to, but we do care about, hey, were you able to produce things that made a difference, not only for you, but for the company you're working for? Now, the next two we're going to talk about is the next 5 moves. Now, high performance requires more thinking before acting. Now, going from mediocre to above average, if you just show up and you're just taking action, that's an easy way for you to do that, because you showed up to work, you cared about what you were doing, you jumped into these different projects, and allows you to build your base so that you can become competent and even more than competent in the areas that you are inside of. But once you're trying to make that leap from above average to high performance, you have to begin to think and act more tactically. You have to think more tactically before you're acting. So the next 5 moves is simply that you're going to ask yourself this question: if only 5 moves were required to make whatever goal that you're trying to achieve happen, what would they be? 1, it forces you to stop, slow down, and think about how you're going to achieve your goals. And then also it forces you to break those down into steps. Now, once you have your 5 steps, you can place those goals and deadlines on your calendar and put attach deadlines to them. Now, if you get through those 5 and they're still kind of high level, feel free to break it down. But the key on this step is giving you clarity on what actions you need to take. If the very first step in your goals is to correspond with members of some other society, well, guess what? It tells me exactly where I need to go. It tells me exactly what I need to do. And it allows me to take a step in that direction rather than trying to just figure it out inside of my head and doing all the things I think might be the right things to do. The thing that separates a lot of high performance from people who are stuck at above average is high performance have a lot of clarity about what they're doing and how it contributes to their overall goal. And by doing this, breaking things down to 5 steps, it allows you to do that as well. The next thing we're going to talk about is developing your key skills, because high performers are always improving and getting better at their area of expertise. So what you want to do is ask yourself, what 3 skills can you develop over the next 3 years to grow into the person you want to become? Those can be technical skills. Those can be soft skills, for lack of a better term. They can be personal development, whatever it may be. So once you've determined those 3 skills, understand that it's going to be a process. It's not going to be something where you're going to get world-class at it in a week or a month or even a year. This is something you want to take your time with, that you continue to develop so that you can practice ideas, come up with your own ideas, and also ingest a lot of information about the areas that you're trying to develop as well. Once you have determined what your 3 skills are, you want to develop your self-education plan to determine how you will learn it, because it's not enough to just say, I want to get better at circuit analysis and semiconductors and I don't know, integrated systems. Those are all very broad areas. Now we want to figure out, how can we determine how you're going to learn those things? Are you going to go back to school? Are you going to watch internet tutorials? Are you going to read books? Whatever it is, you need to construct a self-education plan. You also want to construct a self-mastery plan that will determine how you will master it. So there's 2 steps to this. You want to learn it, which is just exposing yourself to that information, and then the mastery plan, where you're going through and saying, I have a base level competency. Now it's about improving my performance in this area. Sports analogy. The learning stage would be, and let's just say the thing you want to get better at is basketball. The learning stage is, I need to learn to dribble, I need to understand how to shoot, and I need to, I don't know, learn how to play defense. Okay, great. You can play basketball now. Now, if you want to master it, I want to become the best shooter. I want to become the best at playing defense. I want to become the best at whatever the other thing I said was. And so the plans that you have for both of those are going to be different. So that's why you need to have a learning plan and a mastery plan. So there are some tactics to increase your productivity. So 1, take regular breaks, 2 to 3 minute breaks for every 45 to 60 minutes of work. Find your prolific quality output, and you want to structure your work days on producing as much as that PQO as possible. This is a quote from Andy Warhol that I've absolutely fallen in love with. It says, don't think about making art, just get it done. Let everyone else decide if it's good or bad, whether they love it or hate it. While they're deciding, make even more art. And this is really about getting better. You will get better at doing the thing you want to do rather than thinking or studying about the thing you want to do. You need to think and study about whatever you're doing as well, but it shouldn't come strictly from a analytical, non-hands-on point of view. You need to have the tactical, I've done this, and the reason I know that I'm good at it is because I've done it. You need to have the tactical, hands-on point of view as well. Number 3, give yourself a map, break down your goals into 5 major moves and create deadlines for each, and break those 5 down even more if you need to. A great way to think about this is that the initial 5 is going to give you your overall framework, and then you can kind of branch it out to figure out, okay, what are the steps in order to accomplish this larger goal that I'm trying to do? Then what are the steps involved in that? If you need to, what are the steps involved in that? So it gives you a detailed plan on everything you need to do in order to achieve your goal. And then the very last one is your self-education plan. You want to find, it should be 3 skills for you to spend the next 3 years developing intentionally. You want to create your own learning curriculum, and remember that high performers don't leave education to randomness. There's a quote in the book that says, leaving your education to randomness is the fastest path to mediocrity, because you never know. I might learn something today. I might not learn something today. I might learn something from Jim. I might not learn something from Jim. I might go to this conference, I might not go to this conference. And if you are leaving it to randomness, then how can you ever be consistent in your learning if every day you have no idea if you're going to learn something or not? The next one we're going to talk about is developing influence. There are 2 more. So developing influence, the key to this is that you can't do it alone. You're limited in what you can achieve by yourself. We all love the story of the lone wolf, the person who went out by themselves and changed an entire industry. Even when we think about Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, we think about all these accomplishments and all these things they're able to do. We have to remember that they spearheaded those movements, but they did not do them all by themselves. So if you want to reach great heights as a high performer, you have to learn to work with others, because who cares what kind of great idea you have if everyone hates you and they don't want to work with you? You'll never get put together. Or if you put it together, it just won't get the reach or be done at the level of professionalism that it needs to be done in order for it to take traction. Now, remember, people only like to work with leaders who make them think bigger and grow more. So you want to make sure that inside of your team, as you're developing your influence, and we talked about 3 ways that you can develop influence, that we're encouraging them to become more grow into bigger and better people. So growing in bigger as far as what they're able to take on, the challenges they're able to overcome, and then better, changing their outlook, influencing them to see things from the way you're seeing them, not manipulating them, but influencing them to see that, hey, there's growth in this area, there's potential in this area. Let's think about it from this point of view rather than this point of view. And we'll go into that one on the teaching them how to think section of this habit. So to develop influence of your team, like a high performer, you must, 1, teach them how to think, 2, challenge them to develop, and then 3, role model the way. And we're going to talk about each one of those. So teaching them how to think. Now, the immediate thing is that this is not manipulation. We're not going through and we're trying to change people's minds against their will in order to get some sort of nefarious thing going on. We're simply encouraging them to say, hey, I want you to see this from the way that I'm seeing it, because maybe the way you're thinking about it is causing you to come to a different conclusion than the way I'm thinking about it. The best way to think about this is that we don't see life as it is, we see life as we are. So if I'm looking at a problem and my coworker is looking at a problem, I might look at a problem and say, oh, this is a problem. I don't know how to solve it. We're just going to keep it. We're just going to put it somewhere else and we'll have to start all the way over, because that's the way that I look at that problem. Now, my coworker might look at that exact same problem, the exact same thing I just looked at, and said, oh, well, we can just do this and this and this and this, and then the problem will be solved. Well, guess what? The problem was never the problem. The problem was the way that I was looking at the problem. So when you're teaching someone how to think, you're influencing them to say, let's look at it from this direction rather than this direction. So some phrases that teach others how to think could be things like, think of it this way. Instead of thinking the other way, think of it this way. Well, what do you think about this? Well, how should we approach this? And these are all questions that will get someone to jog their memory and jog the way they're thinking about things to hopefully come up with a different conclusion than they did initially. And then also it helps you as well, because people buy into what they help create. So include others in your process, even if it is your project. Do you think that if the engineers and everyone else that worked at Apple said, oh, that's the iPhone is Steve's project, I don't touch it because that's Steve's project, he works on it, I don't fool with Steve because he doesn't talk to anybody right, he doesn't do these things, do you think it would be able to be the same iteration of the iPhone that it is today? No, because the people did not have any buy-in to it. This is Steve's project rather than this is our project headed by Steve. He's the one that's leading this project, but we're all team members on it. So when you're asking people and teaching people how to think and you're using some of these phrases that are on here, it allows them to get buy-in and allows them to maintain some buy-in and feel like an owner of that particular project. The next one, you want to challenge them to grow. High performance challenge the people around them to raise to higher levels of performance themselves. And we do this through positively framed challenges. The reason why this is very important is because a lot of times we think about challenges, we think about, well, you need to do this thing, and if you don't, you're fired, or we challenge people in a very negative light rather than trying to figure out a specific positively framed challenge. So there's 3 ways, and there's 3 types of ways we can structure these PFCs, positively framed challenges. The very first one is by challenging their character. This doesn't mean calling them out of their name. This doesn't mean challenging who they are as an individual. This is just saying, hey, we're going to give you feedback, I'm going to give you some direction, and I'm going to put some high expectations on you. If I'm talking to a team member and I say, this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong, this is what I want you to do the next time, and then these are the expectations that I have, and this is what you need to live up to. So this is a way to positively frame a challenge. The next way is through connection. Improve how they treat and add value to other people. So it could be something where I go to the team and I say, hey, this is the way we're going to be working with this department. This is the way they operate. This is how we're going to treat them. And this is how we're going to add value to whatever's going on. We're not going to silo things. We're not going to hold information on our team because they're not a part of us. This is how we're going to share information. Once again, it's another way to positively frame a challenge. And then 3 is just contribution, adding more value or being more generous. It could be something where you're saying along the lines, this is our, kind of goes with character and contribution, kind of go hand in hand. Well, this is what your feedback was. This is where I want you to add more value. I'm going to give you a free pass to look at this one piece of the project and add value to it. I don't know, you use your brain and this is your part of the project. And I want you to have input and buy-in in it. I want you to add more value to this. How can we make this better? And these are all ways to positively frame challenges, really help people to perform at a higher level without attacking them, without making them feel defensive, and also including them in the project itself. And then the very last one is just role model the way. And it's very, very simple. That's why there's only 2 bullet points on here. High performers act and work in a way that models or encourages the performance they want to see from others intentionally. High performers intentionally look at what can I do today in order to exhibit the practices that I want to see from others. How can I interact with someone in a way that gets them to be a better leader by my actions? We know high performers don't go to other people all the time and say, because there are the positively formed challenges, we might challenge someone to be a better leader. But if you're always ever challenging and you're not a good leader, then why should I listen to you? Because you're wanting something from me that you're not willing to give from yourself. This is why it's so important for you to role model the way. The things that you want from others, once again, starts with you. High performers look at their actions and say, how can I change what I'm doing in order to get this level of response from the person that I want it to come from? Yes, I said that correctly. So tactics to develop influence. 1, encourage those around you to raise the level of performance by modeling the way. So be what you want from others first. If you want them to be good leaders, be a good leader. If you want them to be more productive first. If you want them to be more communicative first. And so that you are what you want from other people. Second, utilize positively framed challenges to get the best from those around you. Issue challenges, not directives. And also you want to make sure that you are giving them specific ways where they can get it as well. So don't make the goals smaller, make the challenge bigger in a specific way. Now, what does that mean? A lot of times we'll have a project and we'll have deadlines on a project. We'll be progressing through their project and then we have 2 or 3 weeks left and we say, well, we're not going to make it based upon what we've done so far. So we're going to extend this deadline. Another way you can do that is keep the deadline the same, but give specific ways that your team can help themselves to achieve that deadline. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to push this out 3 more months, say, okay, we all have been doing 2 reports a day for the past X amount of weeks. I want to challenge you guys to do 4 up until this date. If we need to push it back until this date, then hey, we'll do that. I want you guys to do 4 reports instead of doing 2 reports and until the deadline is reached. And the reason you do it that way is because it tells them exactly what they need to do. It's a positively framed challenge. And you're not just saying do more stuff, because do more stuff is very vague. I don't know what to do with that. Do more of what I'm already doing. Do more of what? What does that happen? So we want to make sure that the challenges that we face and we give someone are bigger in a specific way. Number 3, develop buy-in by asking others their opinions. Because remember, people buy into what they create. This also helps you to structure their thinking. So when you are having issues with people not taking responsibility for certain projects, when you have issues with people really just not taking and performing to a level that you would expect for yourself, ask that person, what would they do to move that project forward? Figure out, how can I get this person to have buy-in in what's actually going on? And the best way to do that is to involve them in whatever process it is involved in developing what we should be doing next. That's the best way to get someone to buy in. Make them feel like they're a part of the process. Not even make them feel like they're a part of the process. Make them a part of the process and make them a part of the process that actually has consequences and that actually will move your project forward. And the very last one we're going to cover is demonstrate courage. Demonstrate courage because it's not always easy. The road to high performance is the one that's traveled, but holds far less competition. There's a lot less people shooting for high performance than it is for people to just be comfortable or being stuck at above average. And it can intimidate others when you try to stand out. There's a syndrome called tall poppy syndrome. So tall poppy syndrome is imagine there's a field of poppies. There's a field of poppies, and one of the poppies is significantly taller than the rest of the poppies. So this is where the rest of the poppies are, and there's one real tall one here. Well, guess what happens? The rest of the poppies that are shorter than the tallest poppy will begin to wrap themselves around the tall one and try to tear it down. Why? Because it's blocking some of the sun. And the same thing can happen in your workplace. You can experience tall poppy syndrome. When you go ahead and you start exemplifying some of the characteristics of high performance, when you start telling other people that you want to be a high performer and are willing to do the things that you need to do for high performance, the people that are around you, the people that are okay at above average, not saying there's anything wrong with them, but they can begin to become intimidated by that. Who is this person? He's going to try and be better than me. He's going to steal some of my shine. When we were all the same level, it was fine. But now that you want to go and succeed and do more things, you can experience tall poppy syndrome. And this is where you need to demonstrate courage and not back away from that. You don't want to limit yourself in order to fit in with more people when you know and your goal is for you to stand out and become a high performer. Only when our fears become our growth path have we stepped onto the path of mastery. You're going to experience fear, you're going to experience challenge, you're going to experience discomfort, all in your path to high performance. I can guarantee you that. But when you experience those things, it should be reassuring to you because it lets you know that I'm on the right path. When challenges come, that means I'm on the right path because other people would stop here. And this is the point where other people have stopped. I'm going to continue to push through this into the next step, whatever that may be. So we want to demonstrate courage by honoring the struggle, sharing your truth and ambitions, and also finding someone to fight for. So honoring the struggle. Remember, growth happens in the stretch. Growth happens when you're stretching beyond your capabilities, when you're experiencing new things. Growth doesn't happen in a period of stagnancy. That doesn't happen then. So remember this, if you quit at the first sign of difficulty in your everyday life, what are the odds you'll persist in the face of real fear or danger? And the ways you can combat this is to develop a growth mindset. A growth mindset is one that simply states that who I am now is not who I'm ever going to be. My outlook on life is not fixed. My capabilities are not fixed. The way I think about things are not fixed. They can all be changed. And if they can all be changed, they can all be changed for the better. So we want to honor that struggle and understand that, hey, this struggle that I'm going up against is an opportunity for me to become better, to become a high performer in this area, and for me to overcome this challenge. And it will help you to face the other challenges that come with more confidence. And the next one is just to embrace the suck. It's going to suck. It's going to suck bad. You're going to not like some days. Some things are going to be hard. Some things are going to be difficult. Some things you're not going to want to do. But also remember that these discomfort is a signal that you're going in the right direction. So whenever you go up against challenges, that means you're going the right way rather than the wrong way. And share your truth and ambitions. If you always go with the flow, you'll never find high performance because average is average, because that's where most people are there. If you're always going with the flow, you'll end up in average and not in high performance. You're going to be going against the flow. So just be aware of that. Share your ideas and how you want to become a high performer. The reason why you want to do this is because when you speak that out, it lets other people around you know that, hey, this is what our intentions are. And people who are high performers now know that, hey, this person wants to be a high performer. I'm going to watch them. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to give them a project to see how serious they are about becoming a high performer. But if you never voice those opinions, no one ever knows. And it makes the path to progression a lot easier, a bit more difficult because you're having to do it all yourself. So don't let other people's criticisms sway you from your conviction, because at the same time, when you're sharing those that you want to be a high performer, that tall poppy syndrome comes in. Other people around you who are at the same level you are now might say, well, why is he so special? What is he doing? He's going to try and become my boss and then tell me what to do. I'm going to bring this person down. I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order for me to make sure that we all stay the same. It's that homeostasis event. We want things to stay the same. So remember, the road to high performance is a road less traveled. There'll be less people there the higher up you go. And that's just because when struggles, as you meet them, a lot of people will say the struggle is too strong. I'm going to go back to where I was. But as you progress through them, you'll be in a more special and a smaller amount of people who have gone through that particular trial. And it allows you to signify yourself and triumphantly go through that trial as a high performer. So also remember to voice your opinions and listen to feedback without letting it to break your spirit. There's going to be times where people give you feedback and that feedback is valid. Just because you did bad on this project does not mean that you're going to do bad on every project forward. Listen to your feedback, listen to those opinions other people have, but keep your spirit strong and continue to pursue the goal you're trying to achieve. And then last one, find someone to fight for. Like we talked about before, we'll often do more for others than for ourselves. So offload your why to someone else to create extrinsic motivation. So once again, remembering who needs me at my best right now. Who can I do this project for? Because we want to offload that and create that extrinsic sense of motivation, because we'll do more than we will for others for ourselves. So we want to always remember what you're doing, and also more importantly, who you're doing it for. I'm doing this project so that my daughter, we can get a raise. I'm doing this project that will allow me to get a raise so that me and my daughter can go to Disneyland or something like that, or we can buy her a horse, or we can do whatever it may be. Now you're not just doing it for your boss, because who cares? You might not like your boss, you might not like him, but guess what? You love your daughter, you love your family, you love being able to spend time with them, and that's who you're doing it for. And it goes beyond and becomes bigger than just you. So three quick tactics for demonstrating courage. Going a little bit over, I'm gonna try and wrap it up. I think there's only 2 slides left. So tell at least one other person about your desire to become a high performer. You want to share your ambitions. Once you put it out there, people can begin to see you as a high performer and also begin to help you. 2, write out your goals and place it somewhere you can read it when you're going through struggle. Learn to embrace the suck, but remember what you're doing it for. When you go through things that are difficult, you can look at your goals that you've written out. Remember, like, I'm not struggling for no reason. I'm struggling because this is what I'm trying to achieve, and this is just the price for entry to achieve these particular goals. And 3, develop a growth mindset. If you already have a growth mindset, continue to utilize that growth mindset. You might not be a high performer today, you might not be a high performer tomorrow, but you can become one guaranteed with time and practice and utilizing these 6 habits that we've talked about so far. So one thing I do want to encourage all of you all to be a part of, if you are not already, is my Defeating Above Average newsletter. In my weekly newsletter, you'll receive breakdowns of books and topics in the high performance space. So I've broken down this book, High Performance Habits. I went through in even more depth on each one of the habits, really talking about what they are, how you can apply them into your life. The next one we're going to be talking about is, I believe, I think it's going to be the 10X rule, or it might be the laws of lifetime growth. I'm not sure just yet. We're breaking those down so that you can see the information from a high performance perspective rather. You'll also get special first notice of any trainings I'm holding. So I'm going to be doing monthly trainings on LinkedIn that I'm going to put on there. But if I do a one-off training or something smaller or something more specific for my people on my email list, you'll know about those as well. And then also challenges to help you become a high performer. I end off each one of my blog posts with a challenge talking about that will help you to apply some of the information that was inside of the post, inside of the newsletter, so that you can become a high performer. It's great to have information, but we need to have application as well in order to see the change we want to see. So upcoming topics, how to create your own self-education plan. Like we talked about in the productivity section, we were talking about our 3 key skills you want to develop over the next 3 years. Go down and break down how you can actually do that, how you can achieve your goals like a high performer. And then also the next book I'm reading right now, this is amazing so far, The Art of Impossible by Stephen Colter. So that's what I have for you guys. Does anyone have any questions while we close everything out? If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. And if not, if you have any other questions, feel free to email me at matthew@matthewgaddy.com. Would love to talk to you. Would love to help you out in whatever way I can as you go on your journey from above average to high performance. Sorry, my daughter just ran by with something. I'm trying to figure out what it was. Anyway, so if you guys have any other questions, awesome. Feel free to email me there, and I will see you on the next one. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.